All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a special MCJ report. I'd like to welcome everybody to the broadcast. Just give us a thumbs up and leave a couple of comments there in the comment section to let me know that the broadcast is connected loud and clear. I'd like to welcome you all on this very rainy afternoon here in Melbourne. We've got quite an urgent broadcast, actually. This is an unusual MCJ report. We usually don't go live at this time. So before we get started, why don't you go ahead and share the broadcast, get it out far and wide, because this is, of course, a matter that is of importance, and it's a matter in relation to the topic of self-defense. That's right. So go ahead and share the broadcast, and let's get this underway, shall we, ladies and gentlemen? Alrighty, so what are we talking about here today? We're talking about self-defense or assault. Now, for those of you unaware, there was an incident that took place in Sydney a couple of days ago at a pro-Ukrainian rally. And what we saw was the very popular YouTuber Aussie Cossack was filming the rally, and there was, of course, an incident that has actually resulted in the Aussie Cossack being charged with assault. But a very, very big question must be put forward, and that is, was this assault or was this self-defense? Now, I'm going to show you the footage, and we're going to talk about self-defense a little bit more so you can make up your own mind at home. Now, this actually came at a pretty interesting time because the day it happened, I was actually researching self-defense all day in preparation of an MCJ report. So I was looking at various case studies. I was looking at the legislation, trying to ascertain what exactly is self-defense. Now, first of all, it's important to point out that we do have self-defense laws here in Australia. That's right. So regardless of what some people may think, it is actually lawful to defend yourself against a threat. Now, just to put this in context a little bit, there are some key elements that make up self-defense. Now, before I go any further, let me just say that obviously I'm not a lawyer and this is not intended as legal advice whatsoever. But generally, when looking at self-defense, there's a couple of attributes that need to be raised. One is intent. Was the intent there to defend oneself? And also proportionality. Okay, so just to give you a little bit of a hypothetical scenario, if somebody was to shove you in the streets and you were to shove that person back to create some distance, that would generally be considered a proportionate response to an assault, okay? But to look at the flip side of things, let's just say, for instance, somebody broke into your home, you punched that person in the head in self-defense of yourself and your family. The intruder at that point left your home, ran down the street, and if you were to chase after that person and beat that person to a pulp with a baseball bat, then it is more than likely you would have exited the zone of self-defense and entered into the realm of assault. Okay, so it really comes down to a lot of the time intention, and there's been many cases here in Australia whereby an individual was charged with assault only for those charges to be later dropped once the intent had been made clear and the proportionality had been made clear. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I've got some footage here showing you the incident that took place in Sydney. I'm going to play it for you now, and I'm going to follow up with an interview that I conducted with the Aussie Cossack shortly after. So first of all, I'll show you the footage and we'll get onto it.
Russia is a terrorist state! Russia is a terrorist state!
Fuck off, you useless.
He came up to me. Yeah, self-defense. Self-defense. Self-defense.
That is assault. That is assault. You just assaulted
He
me.
assaulted me first.
No, we get
It's on camera. It's on camera. A terrorist state. Russia is a terrorist state. Russia is a terrorist. Oh! Oh! Oh!
What the hell are you doing, mate? What are you doing?
All right, so you see the footage right there. There's a few key takeaways, okay, simply by observing the footage. We, of course, see the individual approaching the Aussie Cossack there using some fairly aggressive language as demonstrated. I'm not going to repeat that language for the purposes of the show. And it also appears very clear the individual made contact in an aggressive manner, to which we see the Aussie Cossack push the man away. Of course, it's very unfortunate that the gentleman lost his footing, fell down the steps, and we, of course, hope that he's okay. We never want to see anything like that. That, of course, is a very unfortunate scenario right there. So the question really needs to be asked, was it the intention of Aussie Cossack for the man to fall down the stairs in the way he did, or was it not? I personally don't see how that could possibly be proven. I think that it's a pretty clear-cut case of self-defense. So let me just create another little scenario for you. Okay, imagine this in your head, if you will. Let's just imagine that you're walking down the street and somebody comes up to you, swearing at you aggressively, and pushes you and makes physical aggressive contact with you. And let's just say your response was to push that person away with open palms. And if the assailant in that instance tripped and fell onto the road and got hit by a car, are you responsible for the assailant being hit by a car, or are you not? Whose fault is it? Is it the victim's fault? Is it the assailant's fault? Or is it nobody's fault? And was the outcome just an unfortunate circumstance that was not actually planned for or anything like that? What do you think, ladies and gentlemen? Put your thoughts in the comments. Now, these types of scenarios actually happen all the time. I was in a pretty similar situation myself not all that long ago, where I was approached aggressively and somebody put their hands on me, and I pushed that person away with an open palm. And actually that person went to the police, but the outcome was the police said, you know, listen, grow up, you approach this person first. So anyway, you don't need to hear it from me. I conducted a pretty extensive interview with the Aussie Cossack. It goes for about 30 minutes. I'm going to play it for you right now, and you can make up your own mind what you think about it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined here today by the Aussie Cossack, Simeon. Welcome to MCJ Report. Now, everybody at home has seen the footage. They've seen the legislation in relation to what constitutes self-defense here in Australia. So it's only fair and reasonable that we put the question to you. How are you feeling about all of this, and what happened after you were actually taken into police custody?
Hi, Morgan. Thanks for having me on your show, mate. Look, it's a situation where all I have to do is say the truth.
And for the first time, maybe in my life, I actually agreed to do a police interview, because there was no hidden agenda. There was no, sneakiness. It's just simply, mate, it is what it is. I'm attacked. I'm entitled to push the person away, to push the danger away. And that's exactly what happened. And it was a simple recount of what happened. I mean, on that day, I counted about seven assaults against me, starting from the first assailant, the gentleman now known as Alan Davis. I mean, he was an assailant. Now, he assaulted me. It's obviously a common assault. Very clear footage. In his right hand, he's holding a pole, a very big flag, grabs me with his left hand, and, if someone grabs you and you push them away with an open palm, that's completely reasonable. Do I feel sorry for the bloke? Of course I do. Do I regret that he fell down? Of course. Do I feel sorry for the bloke? Of course. However, have I ever hit anyone like that? Ever? No. I'm just not in that position to defend myself. I mean, my YouTube channel has 600 and something videos. We've never had an incident like that, and we've been to all sorts of protests. Left wing, right wing, police, riot squads, everything you can think of, and there's never been any incident like that. Because generally speaking, Australians, even Australian police, they respect the fact that journalists like yourself, like myself, regardless, we're not mainstream media, but we're still journalists, we're independent journalists, we have every right to film a protest in a public place. And that's what this is all about.
Well, that's exactly right. Now, looking at the footage, what it most definitely appears is that the person in question approached you. We slowed the footage down, and we also had a look at the words that were said prior to the incident taking place. There were some aggressive swear words directed your way, and then the footage shows the individual making physical contact with you in what appeared to be an aggressive manner. So can you confirm that it was indeed the individual that put his hands on you first before you responded with a push?
Yes, Morgan, that's exactly right. He grabbed me. He assaulted me. It's common assault what he did to me, and that's what sparked it. I mean, common assault. You're allowed to defend yourself against common assault, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, I'm not crazy. I'm on parole. I'm not crazy to going around for no reason and hitting people. I mean, I never hit people. Honestly, it's the only weapon I have is the gift of the gab. And police know that. My audience knows that. Everyone knows that. The government knows that. There's nothing to fear in terms of a physical altercation with the Aussie Cossack. However, if someone attacks me, and I'll say this now on air on your program, for future, anyone attacks me, that will, the answer will be swift. There will be self-defense measures deployed, countermeasures deployed.
I hear what you're saying. And here in Australia, in relation to self-defense, the general guideline is that self-defense should be proportionate to the threat coming our way. And it is indeed lawful here in Australia for us Australian citizens to defend ourselves in a capacity that we consider to be reasonable. So given that, Simeon, would you say that a shove to get this man away from you was proportionate and reasonable?
Well, as we can see on the footage, Morgan, I had my phone in my right hand, like this. I had only one hand available, which was my left hand. And it was a spur of the moment, split-second decision, to push the imminent danger away. Obviously, there was 30 of them or 40 of them, who knows, outnumbering me, and they're all against me, and they started attacking me. Now, let's not forget that there were multiple assailants. We had that bloke attacking me, holding a pole. He grabbed me. We had a woman, a deranged Ukrainian lady. You can see the look in her eyes if you can put up a screenshot on screen. This is the woman who actually smashes me, karate chops me, and smashes my hand out of my phone out of my hands. And that Samsung S22 had its screen completely smashed. And for some reason, the police seized my phone, saying it's part of the investigation. I'm not sure if they're going to charge the lady or they're just trying to download all my data, have a look at, who I'm talking to and so forth. But I think that's highly illegal anyway. I've got nothing to hide. So,
yeah, absolutely. Now, in my opinion, it looks pretty clear cut to me. It looks like a very clear case of self-defense. Of course, it is unfortunate that the man happened to fall down those stairs, and of course, we're hoping that he is okay. but I've been looking at cases, and it was actually kind of interesting, Simeon, when I saw the footage of this incident. I'd been actually looking through legislation all day in relation to self-defense and what constitutes self-defense here in Australia, actually preparing to broadcast a report on this exact topic. So to me, it's pretty clear cut, and I think most of us have been in situations at least once or twice in our lifetime when somebody approached us in a very aggressive manner and we were forced to defend ourselves appropriately. Now, what it appeared to me was that it was you were trying to create some distance between the man who had approached you, between you and him, and it appeared that you used an open palm. You didn't make a fist, you didn't punch him or anything like that. I just wanted to confirm.
Yes, so at that moment, obviously, he was at a disadvantage that his footing on the stairs, I was at the top of the stairs, and he approached me from the bottom of the stairs up, and his center of gravity, when he grabbed me, he effectively was using me to balance himself because he was moving towards me. Now, I call upon all the martial arts experts out there, especially the Cossack Sistema martial arts experts, who will confirm that the old man, by grabbing me like that and by me extending my arm forward, it wasn't necessarily even the force of the push, which was quite light. It was more like I brushed him away. But it was the fact that the inertia and the energy, the center of gravity, then, it acted in a way which was very unfavorable to him. And of course, that wasn't intended by me. It was an unfortunate set of circumstances, and my heart goes out to him, the poor bloke. I'd love to send him a bunch of flowers. And if you're listening, Alan, mate, it's very regrettable that you ended up in that situation. But, you're an old man, but even an old man can learn lessons. And the lesson is, the hyenas shouldn't attack a lion, even if there's 30 of them, and and I stand by that conviction, and I have no regrets for defending myself at all. I do, however, my heart goes out to this bloke, and I would never want anyone to be hurt or in that situation.
My understanding in relation to self-defense, a lot of it comes down to proportionality and intent. So can you just confirm what your intent was? My presumption is that you did not intend for this man to fall over or to fall downstairs or anything like that. It looked like to me it was simply to create distance, but I'd like to just hear it from you if that's okay.
Absolutely. I can confirm on camera, on your show, that there was no intent to harm or to assault. The intent was purely to defend myself, to create distance between the assailant and I. Let's call him an assailant because that's exactly what he is. He's an assailant who committed a common assault against me. I was entitled to defend myself. The police know that, In fact, when I was walking out of the police station last night, they said to me, they go, mate, it was self-defense. We can all see that. But we've got orders from command. What they wanted to do was to charge you, to get you on bail conditions, knowing that they would lose the charge in court. It's not about the charge. They know that this charge will be either withdrawn or it will be beaten by my legal team. And thanks to Mark Davies from Xenophon Lawyers, who immediately came down to Sydney Day Street Police Station. And, he also encouraged me to take part in an interview. One of the very, very, very rare circumstances. It's poor form. It's bad form in the prison system for a prisoner to ever give an interview to police. It's just not on. But in this circumstance, I thought to myself, yes, I'm going to do this because I want the police to hear what I have to say, because it's important for the police to hear what you just said. A, intent. B, reasonable force. 3, what I perceive the threat to be. And these are the key, you could say, aspects of a self-defense situation. You need to have that on paper for the police and the magistrate to consider that. So that's exactly what happened. And of course, as you correctly state, Morgan, I pushed him away with an open palm. In fact, my left hand, and I had the phone in my right hand. I didn't close my fist. I didn't give him a right hook or a left jab, or I didn't go and finish him off. It was just the get out of my face. And as you can see, I don't even pay attention to him, because as soon as I pushed him away, there was another assault happening, another person on camera, and the footage clearly shows that, of another person hitting me, karate chopping me, smashing the phone out of my hands. The thing is, a lot of uneducated people out there, they see people filming and they perceive that to be some type of illegal act or offensive act, or they believe that they can defend themselves against the camera in a public place. We've seen it so many times. We've seen it You've seen it. A lot of people watching this, if you're on social media, you've seen it happen. And police are well trained, and even a policeman would never hit a phone out of my hand. A policeman would never attack me for filming him. Unfortunately, they just got to bite the bullet and cop it and just be filmed, because that's the legislation. And thankfully, we live in Australia. It's a free country. It's a great country. It's a beautiful country. It's a lucky country. And we're allowed to film in a public place. And no one can actually hit you or stop you from filming. Now, I think that's what the perception was. And this is the problem. You got uneducated people. They're silly. They've probably come from Ukraine a few years ago. They're still not even citizens. And they think they can walk around and hit people. It's not on. I mean, how many times have I been filmed? I've been chased down by Four Corners, Current Affair, Channel 9, Channel 10, Channel 7, ABC. Mate, it's part of the game. You just got to film, and you got to. The only way you can react is to behave in a certain manner, which is favourable to your case. You can't actually hit journalists. You can't hit members of the public, and this is what this case is about. This case is about more than just self-defence against the common assault. This case is about freedom of speech. In public place, you're allowed to be filmed. So big shout out to all the journalists out there, the independent journalists especially, who have been attacked or been the victims. You see people like Chris Coveries, he gets attacked, he gets hit. You might not like him, you might disagree with him, you might like him, doesn't matter. But it's not right that he gets smashed around. I sometimes have a word with him, we're sometimes friendly, we're sometimes not friendly, it doesn't matter.
Seems to be a bit of a love-hate relationship sometimes between you two.
Generally, we're friendly. He's a good bloke. He's all right. And I like his work. He's balanced. And what he does is he brings in an aspect of the left into the freedom movement, which is good to explore the left, because the left aren't very prominent in the freedom movement. So that he's also got his role to play and his job to do. But he's also a victim. He also often gets hit with umbrella sticks and walking sticks and fists and slaps. And that's not right. Now, it's an interesting question, Morgan. The police know that I was assaulted on multiple occasions, beginning with the old man's common assault. The footage clearly demonstrates there's about 7 times where people hit me in that video. I mean, I was very conservative to only defend myself once. I'm not a boxing bag, I'm not a punching bag, but I am very calm in these situations. And, your viewers and my viewers will definitely attest to the fact that in many situations, high-risk situations, very antagonistic situations, I always managed to remain calm. And I can say confidently on your show that when I pushed him away, I was cool as a cucumber and I was calm. There was no aggression. It was a cold face. There was no intention to assault or harm or, anything like that. It was just simply, get out of my face, mate, bang. And this is a message. And I want to ask you a question, Morgan. You know the legislation. You've obviously looked into it. You've done a bit of research into this. Can we just confirm that, yes, it is legal to defend yourself and using reasonable force, push away an assailant?
It's completely lawful, and I can I can pull up the legislation right now, and I specifically looked into New South Wales just to confirm. It's very, very similar across all states though. So what we have here is from the Crimes Act, and I'll put it up on the screen. It says self-defense is lawful. Okay, so this is the context. It's lawful. I'm reading now, quote, "A person is not criminally responsible for an offence if the person carries out the conduct constituting the offence in self-defense, and that could be necessary to defend himself against another person." Now, it's also important to point out that in doing so, the self-defense must be proportionate to the risk being faced, and there must be some sort of intimidation or threat to one's safety. And based on the footage, Simeon, I very, very strongly believe that you meet all the criteria for self-defense. And of course, there's a sliding scale. There's been cases where individuals have been acquitted of all charges after using a firearm against somebody who was posing a threat. It's all about proportionality. So I'm actually a little bit concerned about the onerous bail conditions that have been slapped on you in relation to this incident. Now, are you in any position to talk about that?
Well, absolutely. I'm more than happy to drop this exclusive on your show, because it hasn't been published yet. But here we go, guys. I'll tell you the outrageous bail conditions, and this is why I think the police ended up charging me, because they held me for a long time. There was no charge laid, and then they had 15 minutes to go before they could charge me or release me. I could walk. All of a sudden, they, senior police on the phone. There was all these people. My favourite prosecutor, Robert Brackenridge, shout out to you, mate. He actually rocked up to the Day Street Police Station, and he was observed by witnesses walking to the front door. So definitely had a big team working on this. And the question was, do we charge him or not? Now, I've heard the senior police say this to me previously, that we'll get you on something. We'll get you on anything. We know it might not stick. It might not hold up in court. We might have to withdraw it. It might be defeated in court. You might win, Cossack. But we're going to put on bail conditions until the court date. Now, the bail conditions, ladies and gentlemen, are as follows. First thing, I can't organise or attend any protests. What has that got to do with anything? A very interesting one. That the police have probably been waiting for a long time to get that one. Second bail condition, I had to hand in my Australian passport. And the police know that I had travel plans to fly to Russia for the 40th day of my deceased relative who was killed 40 days ago. And memory eternal to him. It's very sad that he was killed. I'm the godfather to his daughter. So unfortunately, they've stopped those travel plans. I paid over $6,500 in airline tickets, and they've stopped me from flying now. Very, unfortunate, but what can you do? It just means I'll be here. If the Australian police and the policymakers were smart, they would have got rid of me, send him away. Now I'm here, guys, and I'm not going anywhere. So, I did get permission from the parole board to fly, and that was a surprise trip I was going to make. But unfortunately, I've been also banned from entering within 200 meters of any airport or any port or international point of departure. Now, the next ban I've been placed on is I'm now banned from entering with a 2-kilometre zone of Sydney, or the centre of Sydney. So that's everything from Redfern, Pyrmont, Woolloomooloo, Central, Town Hall, Wynyard, basically New South Wales Parliament, all of the juicy areas where all the Downing Centre courts, all the places where, the Aussie Cossack needs to be on the beat, on the street and making a story, they've now banned me. And obviously these strange bail conditions do not relate to the charge at all. I mean, what's the charge? It's defending myself against the common assault. So did I miss? Oh, this is another one. I had to surrender my phone. Now, I did not give consent for this, right? I said, I do not give consent. They said to me, we need to get the footage of your phone of the incident. I said, what do you mean? The incident was live streamed. There's no footage on the phone of the incident. In a live stream, the footage goes directly onto YouTube. I don't even have a copy. And I've got them on body cam saying that's why they want my phone. And then I said, well, you don't need my phone now, do you? And they said, no, the detectives are going to seize it and we want to, download the data and so forth. I said, no worries, go for it, knock yourself out. But I'm not giving you consent. You do not have my permission. So we'll see what eventuates out of that. But I think that's pretty much all of the bail conditions. And I have to also now report to the police 3 times a week, which is excellent. That means that 3 times a week, my viewers are guaranteed to have an excellent video of me, Aussie Cossack marching into a police station. So.
Well, when I hear you speak about these bail conditions, there appears to be, and of course I'm no expert on the matter, but bail conditions that are not related to the alleged offence in question, such as keeping you out of the Sydney CBD. What if you have friends and family, or you need to be there for a range of different reasons? Keeping you away from protests, which I think doesn't make any sense whatsoever, considering the circumstances of which we've been presented. But seizing your phone, and I do consider the police are very much aware of the fact that you live stream, you upload, and everything you do is on social media and YouTube. So I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories, but do you think there's any possibility that the police have placed these onerous bail conditions on you, and I've seen this done in Victoria, not in relation to proportionality, but in relation to perhaps something else, potentially malice?
Absolutely. I think this is a police special operation. I know it is, because I know that there was a whole range of senior police involved, and perhaps even joint task force. So I'm saying even organisations, government structures who are above the police, they were involved in this. And this was their aim, this was their goal. Now, this goes down to the, rewind to what actually happened. We had someone who threw themselves at me, attacked me. I defended myself. Even on that video, we had people, I've caught people on camera. If you have a look at that video, guys, 14 minutes I think it goes for, there's people on camera saying, hit me, attack me. And I'm saying, mate, are you normal? You're asking me to hit you? So you've got people throwing themselves at me, asking me to hit them. So when you talk about conspiracy theories, who knows? Was this some plan to try and get me, to try and force me to commit action that could be perceived as an offence? Although I had very reasonable legal grounds, but the police reaction, the police response, they knew themselves. I did a great interview. I said everything. I might even publish part of the interview online, where I said, mate, no intent to harm, purely self-defence, so forth and so forth. And the police knew that these charges won't stick. This charge, if it gets to court, I asked the police, mate, if you're going to charge me, why don't you charge everyone on the day who assaulted somebody? If you want to be fair, if you want to be lawful, if you want to, be, what's the word? We want to be accurate. You want to be
equal under the law, things like that.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. Charge all the assaults.
Yeah, well,
I asked him,
we've seen it in Victoria with minor alleged offences met with the most extreme, disproportionate, freedom-hindering bail conditions, only once challenged in the Supreme Court to be completely thrown out. So we've seen witch hunts here in Victoria conducted by Victoria Police, only for the Department of Prosecutions to be left with egg on their face once challenged in the Supreme Court. So I suppose my question to you, Aussie Cossack, is how far are you willing to take this fight? Because I'd hate to see the police unleash a war of legal attrition, but will you go all the way or will you not?
Well, Morgan, I'm obligated to go all the way because they're trying to make an example out of me, right? And, in this, just as people in Victoria, this has happened to, I have an obligation to fight all the way. I can't just roll over and die or roll over and accept, their harassment, their bullying, intimidation tactics. And we know that there are good judges out there. We know that eventually, if you put in enough resources, you spend enough money, you get enough barristers and lawyers and QCs and SCs. It's expensive, it's hard, but what can you do? It's what we signed up for. We're in the freedom movement, we're defending freedom, and we can't allow the police, the abuse of the police system, the police abusing the legal system, abusing those mechanisms which are available. And then these mechanisms, these intimidation tactics, they're being deployed against freedom. They're being deployed against people in an effort to gag, to stop, to hinder people, hinder journalists, hinder, from organising protests, from pushing back, from speaking up. And this is what the police have done. So I've instructed Mark Davies and Xenophon solicitors to begin the process to set down a court date. We're going to fight these ridiculous bail conditions, which have nothing to do with the charge at all. And look, the charge itself is it's false, it's frivolous, it's very clear. You can. I might even do a video. We might do the pub test, which is go to a few pubs in Sydney. Obviously not in the centre because I can't go to 2 kilometres. We might go to a few of the pubs around the outskirts of Sydney and just ask people, mate, have a look at this footage. What do you think? Is that self-defence or is that not self-defence? And people will say, mate, Aussie Cossack, I'm surprised you didn't KO him. And that's the thing. I used minimal application of force. I even said to the plainclothes detectives who were interviewing me, I said, mate, what less could I have done? What less could I have done? Blown him a kiss? I mean, what else could I have done which was less than what I did? Open palm, just pushing away simply. It's one of the least lethal or least, you could say, least applications of force. So I would say very reasonable. We need to fight these bail conditions. So definitely we'll do that. And I appreciate your support and would like to speak to you more about this and your experiences in the Victorian Supreme Court, because this looks like deja vu. This is exactly what they did in Victoria. New South Wales Police are stooping to the level of Victorian Police. Sorry if I may add that. But
No, absolutely, and sometimes they act very similar. So my firm opinion at this stage is I think your charges will be dropped. I think it's very clear we witnessed an act of self-defense, and these bail conditions, the only reasonable course of action will be for these conditions to be dropped. Maybe it will happen in the magistrate's court. Maybe you'll need to go to the Supreme Court. But I'm going to make a little bit of a prediction here, and we'll see if I'm right or if I'm wrong, and a bit of an MCJ prediction. I think that by laying this charge, or probably more specifically the bail conditions on you, in the end, New South Wales Police are actually empowering you to continue your work. And once you take this fight all the way and you're successful, and I think you will be successful, I think New South Wales Police are going to have a very difficult time should they seek to impose these types of conditions on you in the future, because they would have information by that stage knowing that should they go down this road again, you're not going to go away, you're going to fight all the way. And so it must provoke the question within the department, how much resources can they afford to spend on one man, knowing that he will acquire the legal defense and go all the way. So I think this is probably going to backfire and actually provide you with additional layers of protection for doing what you do.
Well, hopefully you're right, Morgan. Hopefully that prediction comes true. Let's make a note of that. We'll play this video in a few weeks' time when we hopefully have a win to the people. At the end of the day, you're right. We set a precedence, and the police need to know that if they want to have a go at me, they're having a go at everyone, because a lot of people will support me. And thank you to all the people out there, the people watching, and your viewers as well. I mean, we're all on the same page. We're all different. I'm different to you. You're different to me. But we all agree on one thing, and that's we agree to stand defiantly in the face of tyranny. Doesn't matter if you're in Victoria. Doesn't matter if you're in New South Wales, Queensland. That's what unites us. And police intimidation tactics, and the more pressure the police and government, improper pressure, that they exert on us as the little guys, as the regular Aussies out there. That's the more they empower us. You're right. The more they unite us, the more we are united in our resolve to show defiance in the face of tyranny. And yes, if it costs money, if it costs resources, well, what can I do? So be it. It's worth it. It's worth. Freedom isn't free, and it's worth fighting for freedom. It's worth paying the lawyers, paying the barristers, paying the big names in town to get into the Supreme Courts, to get into the High Courts if we have to, and making sure that the police are held to account. Now, unfortunately, as we know, the police use and abuse the taxpayers' war chest. They have an unlimited amount of resources available to them. We don't have enough nurses in the hospitals. We don't have enough police can't respond to burglaries and everyday crimes. But when it comes to something like this, there'll be 35 coppers on the scene. They'll bring in special prosecutors. They'll bring in, what they did? They even got forensic testing on the bloke's shirt. The bloke who I allegedly, pushed away. Apparently they had to get forensic testing, so they took a swab of my DNA. I said, how does this ever make sense? And they said, oh, because you pushed him on the shirt. Well, I said to the cop, I said, well, at least you admit I pushed him on the chest and not in the neck or the face, since the contact was on the shirt. And then he looked at me in a dumb way and he said, yeah, but he pushed him here, then your hand slid up. I said, come on, mate. Either I pushed him here or I pushed him here. Get your story straight. So this police story is already falling apart before it's even started. And so for something like this, to try and torpedo, a visible, freedom fighter like myself, they will not spare any resource. They will deploy everything possible. They will literally spend hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars if they're necessary. And guys, that's your money. Morgan, that's your viewers, that's your money. That's the people of New South Wales money. And it's disgusting that they're able to get away with this. Whereas, the little guys, just like you guys in Victoria and just like us in New South Wales, we're literally having to, pay out of our own way and pay out of our pocket to try and, get justice against the police. So you're exactly right about that. The taxpayer is, unfortunately, the police is abusing the resources that the taxpayer gives to the police. And, it's a blank check. How far will they take this? We'll wait and see. But I certainly hope that Morgan, your prediction, the MCJ report prediction comes true.
Thank you. Now, before we wrap it up, do you have any parting words for the people of Victoria? And also, where can people go to support your work and to follow what you do?
Well, thanks to everyone watching, and I know predominantly your audience is in Victoria. You guys have done a great job, an excellent result in the Victorian elections. 90,000 people, more than 90,000 people voted for the Victorian Freedom Party. It's an excellent result for a party that's having their first go at the elections. Congratulations to all of your colleagues, Morgan, all of your team, your candidates, and all of their seats. It was a very impressive result. It's impressive, firstly, to get that structure into place. And let's say, hopefully, that continues, that energy. It's unfortunate that dictator Dan Andrews won, and I think he just reeks of corruption. And, shame on everyone who voted for Dan Andrews. End of the day, we know that many people didn't vote for him. We know that there are a lot of people, we need unity. We had a lot of candidates running against Dan, but, when you got Dan is one and his supporters vote for him, and the anti-Dan candidates, there's 5 or 6 of them. So the votes get split up. So I suppose my parting message, try to stay together, be unified, and Morgan Jones, I can fully endorse him as a great leader for Victoria, rally around him. Honestly, we need leaders. We need people who can provide hope for the others, and the people will rally, just as we saw in Victoria. So congratulations to everybody in Victoria on that excellent result. It certainly, they didn't expect that result. I don't think the mainstream parties or the mainstream media or the current government in Victoria expected the freedom movement to get such an excellent result with over 90,000 votes. Having to dip your toes in the water for the first time, that's excellent. And we've got obviously a New South Wales election coming up, so we'll look to Victoria. We'll look to Morgan, to your party and yourself to see how we can use that experience that you guys have created. An excellent model for New South Wales to move forward on. And I think there's this battle is just beginning, and we're not going anywhere. They can temporarily gag us or confiscate phones or ban us from going near the city or confiscate passports or give this false charges at us just to slow us down. At the end of the day, you can take down the Aussie Cossack, but there's thousands more. There's hundreds of thousands of more. At the end of the day, there's millions more. For every one they take down, 10 will come in his place. So thanks, Morgan, to you personally as well. I've just been released out of custody, and you've done this show off the bat straight away. It'll probably be the first MCJ report that's coming out about this developing story. So thanks to you, mate. Thanks to your great work. Check out my channel, Aussie Cossack YouTube. And guys, I'm going to repost this video on our channel. So head over to Morgan's channel as well, MCJ Report on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to him.
Alrighty, so there you go, ladies and gentlemen. So what are your thoughts? Put your thoughts in the comments. I think you know what my thoughts are at this stage, but of course you are more than free to make up your own mind. So do you think assault or self-defense? Now, I'm going to leave you with my closing thoughts and my closing opinions. Now, just a couple of things. I think that it is fair to take the position in this world that if somebody approaches somebody else aggressively and makes aggressive physical contact, otherwise known as assault, that person must unfortunately accept the consequences of what could potentially happen. So I think the moral of the story is, if you do not want to find yourself in trouble, do not go up to people, do not be aggressive, do not put your hands on people, do not assault people. Of course, in saying that, the gentleman who was injured as a result of this incident, we of course do hope that he's okay. We hope that he is on the road to a speedy recovery. So my conclusion after watching this and taking all factors into consideration, I do consider this an act of self-defense, and I don't believe that it is possible to prove that there was some type of intent to do anything more outside of simply a shove. So those are my thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. You, of course, are free to disagree with me, or you can agree with me. But in the meantime, go ahead, share this broadcast, get the word out there, and I will catch you next time on MCJ Report.
you.